Hello, all you hardcores. Welcome to part two. We're joined by Bob from, I think he's from Pembrokeshire, Wales, Bob. I might have that wrong. No doubt he'll correct me when he watches this back. He's currently living in Canada, so where it's freezing. He must like the snow. So he'll be on any second. Now, let me just press the old, here we go. Here's Bob. Bob the Builder. Uh, yeah, we were saying there about the heavyweight division. So I want to go on to Hughie Fury. He fought at the weekend. He's his seventh
Mhm.
win on the trot since his last defeat, obviously. The opponents he's had are 122 wins, 38 losses, and two draws. Seven wins since he's on a run of seven. I want to see him step up now because I'm at the end of my tether with it now. I've defended Huey for years because I know him. I know his dad and his brothers. But there's no favours on here for anybody. What I don't like to hear is rubbish. Now, you've seen the interview. His dad's come out and said, Huey had a broken hand. Right. So let's just start from there because if this were anybody else, Ben Davison, Shane McGuigan, Dave Caldwell, we'd slaughter them. So why should we let Peter Fury off? Peter said he put Hughie in the ring with a broken hand. Izzy Asif, the promoter, who I do know, said it's a shattered fist. Why? Why would you put him in with a broken hand? And how did he pass the medical? Because isn't there some sort of line being crossed here? Somebody's at fault here. They're putting two men in and one's got a broken hand. And they're then saying, Peter then went on to say, he's a friend of ours and he needed a payday, so we gave him a fight. But Hughie had a broken hand. That's why he couldn't let his right hand go. Personally, I don't believe that. I think he didn't let the hand, couldn't let the hand go. That's what I think. And I think that's an excuse. But that's a poor excuse, that, because it exposes the border control and it makes him look a bit pony, doesn't it, really, Peter? Doesn't it? Do you think?
Well, um, I have not been as charitable about Hughie Fury as you have.
Yeah, I've
I've
tried my best, Donna. I've tried my best.
I have thought Hughie Fury to be, as you would say, a busted flush for some period of time. Um, when Hughie Fury gave an interview recently where he was calling out top names in the division, including Anthony Joshua, pretty much he named everybody,
Usyk.
right? Yes, he did name Usyk. One of my subscribers said that he didn't, but in fact, he actually
He did.
did name Usyk. Um, I, I thought, okay, right. So then, why are you fighting Dan Garber? Like, if you're fighting Solomon Dakers or you're fighting Elmer Fudd's son, or you're fighting, TKV, I can say, okay, well, then you're working your way up. But you started not even on the first rung of the ladder. You started before the ladder was even up against the wall. And then we get to the fight. And to say it was underwhelming is again an understatement. To answer your question directly, if he had a broken hand, then the British Boxing Board of Control are at fault for allowing him in the ring
Yeah,
because you can't pass a medical with a busted paw.
yeah.
So you had an injured fighter uh, fudging a medical in the ring. That's not believable to me.
No, it isn't for
So
me either.
so if that's not believable, then the statement "my son had a busted hand" has to be a false statement.
Well, they put him in with Pulev with a bad cut, and the cut man said that'll open up in first or second round, and it did. So they rolled the dice then, and obviously they rolled it the other night if he did. But well, we can only go on what Peter Fury said. He's the man. His word is made
Well,
of oak. He done bullshit. So if he's put his lad in with a broken hand, we have to take him at his word, don't we?
well, maybe you do, but I don't.
No, I think he couldn't let his. I believe he can't pull trigger because he's frightened of what's coming back because he can't get out of the way. It's awful, really, because it's come to him very early, like Riddick Bowe. Riddick Bowe will finish when he had 28. Hughie's 30 now and he's
Yeah.
been finished for a while. Inactivity. Now, he looked to me, and I said it earlier, like a butter knife trying to cut through a big steak.
Yeah.
See them come? That's how it looked to me. His tools are not sharp, and that's because of the people around them and the fact that they've been frozen out. The cousin and Bricktop have froze them out. That's what's gone on. But when you strip it down, they have to look at themselves because he doesn't do tickets. His style's awful. He backpedals. He's not engaging in interviews, right? And when you put all that into the melting pot, and he's an hard night's work for anybody, and he can take a shot because he's never been down. Who's going to want to get in with him? He's in the Who Needs Him club. But when you go back to his amateur days, he's a very decorated amateur world championship junior gold
World
medalist.
champion.
He
Yeah.
could have gone to Olympics, but he turned pro at 18, and I think that other 4 year would have been better for him. Me, that's what I personally think as an amateur. If he'd have stayed up at the EIS another 4 year, he'd have been reaping the rewards now. But he's a 12-year pro last month, March 13th, his first fight, 2013. So he's a month into his 13th year and he's fighting Dan Garber, a journeyman in the six rounders. That's the statistics. That's the bottom line. They can dress it up how they want to do it, right? And they can come out with all that. We don't put injured fighters in. We only put them in the ring when they're ready. Well, you've just said you put an injured fighter in with a broken hand. Now, like I said, I know Peter Fury very well. But if it were anybody else, I'd be all over it like a rash. So I've got to bring this up, and it kills me. But that's what's happened.
Well,
That's the facts. What we're looking at here. You're putting kids in with broken hands. That's what he said. His words on Pro Boxing Fans channel. Got it on here. 8 minutes
I have
ago.
I have a I have a theory, or
Go
maybe it's
on.
a suggestion. Let's assume that Peter Fury is a world-class trainer, and
Yeah.
I've no issue with that. Peter
Yeah.
Fury is a very, very good trainer. But just like, they say you shouldn't learn to drive a car from your dad because there's something about the familial relationship that is, you'll learn better from a real driving instructor rather than
Yeah.
from your parents. I think that Hughie Fury would be better off being shipped out to a trainer who has no relationship with the fighter. Because I obviously I'm not in the gym. I don't know the relationship between Hughie Fury and Peter Fury. But what we do know is that Peter Fury is a class trainer. Hughie Fury had the basics to build upon. You don't get to be a world amateur champion without those basics. But the reality is that Hughie Fury has not lived up to expectations. So either the training is bad or the fighter's bad. But let's put the fighter with a different trainer entirely and say, okay, you are going to go and train with this guy in the United States, somebody totally, totally different, removed from the family, and then see what you're like, because that will be the acid test. Right now, I feel that Peter Fury is too close. Obviously, he's a father, right? There's something not clicking in that relationship, and it's producing a product that is substandard.
I'm only saying, Bob, what other people who've got access are saying, but they daren't ask the questions. Do you see where I'm coming from? Because they're frightened. Like
Yeah.
they don't ask Bricktop about, oh, is there any drug testing on this show? Boom, we have you removed straight away. Remove them, and that's it. So I'm only asking, and it would stay with somebody into the 13th year if that's where you're at, because that's not progression, going backwards. That's
No,
my opinion.
it a 13-year pro who has just called out the heavyweight champion of the world has no business doing a six-rounder with some guy who's essentially a cab driver.
And he's saying he's going to make a statement. So their words, like his dad. Oh, he had a broken
Yeah.
hand. His words, not my words. His. I don't see anybody asking questions. All I see is a lot of people noshing people off. Let's get to art at matter, right? I know what my channel is. I'm not telling Peter Fury how to train fighters, but it hasn't worked out, has it, with Hughie? Technically, has it really? So they
Oh,
all need to have a good look at themselves and say, where are we going here? Are they going to be in wilderness?
well, it might be that Peter Fury could train somebody else to a world title,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
the relationship, the gelling between father and son might actually be a hindrance to producing the best out of Hughie Fury. So, I mean, I'm assuming that that family isn't short of some money. Why not? If Hughie Fury wants to continue as a professional heavyweight boxer, why not ship him off to the United States of America, in a gym there where he's going to be, lost in the world of the gyms for 8 months, and he's going to come out, and we'll see what he's got then.
I don't think his heart's in it, myself, because if it were, he'd make a decision for himself, but it looks like he's not making his decision, so that it's up to him. But the kid's very talented, very. He's got more skills than Tyson Fury, his cousin, but he has not got the devil in him like Tyson. And when you can't pull
Yeah,
that trigger, there's a problem. It's like a rally driver. When he can't hit them bends at 100 mile an hour and he's hitting them at 60, he's not going to win rally championships, is he? He's just going to be an also ran. And that's the problem with Hughie, I personally think. But I could be wrong. He could surprise us all. But but for Hughie to get back
well,
in mix, I don't want to hear stories like, well, we needed rounds. Well, you were going to make a statement before the fight, and you got him out there in 5 rounds. Oh, we needed rounds. Well, it were only a 6 rounder anyway. So you got 15 minutes. But you could have got that off him in sparring because he's your sparring partner. So I don't want to hear
yeah.
any hackers and shit. Because if anybody else, like I said, social media would be all over them, but they're going to be scared to death to say out to these in case they get cut off with access. That's the bottom line.
Again, Russ, people were buying tickets, people were paying money
Yeah.
to
Have
go
you
and
got a man
see
going in there with one fucking hand?
well, something that it wasn't as good as going to see a sparring session. It really wasn't.
Well, he
I
said it
mean,
now, hasn't he? He said his hand's broke, so you can't take that back now. Because if you take it back and go, well, it wasn't really broke, but it weren't 100%. Well, that's a lie. Because once you've said
yeah,
it, you can't take it back. You see where I'm coming from?
yeah.
So once
No,
you
no,
tell a
I
lie, you got to tell another, and they're gonna have to keep telling them. So if it is a lie, what else have we been lied to about? So anything you say to me, it's no good because I don't have liars in my life. You know, I don't want no to do with them. So that's where we're
you
at.
know, it's before we leave the heavyweight division, and I
Yeah,
don't know, have we done with Hughie Fury?
yeah, we are in
I've
a
done
shit.
with
Yeah, give it one more minute. Go on,
I've done with Hughie Fury, but there was one other fight
go on then.
that I watched, and I'd like your opinion on it.
Go on then.
The debut of Olympic star Delicious Ori. Did you watch that
Oh
fight?
my God. Oh,
The,
they're not going to do no. He's not. What was that?
well, it was a mini cab driver who looked like he'd had a kebab before he stepped into the ring. Um, it was it was I was I was actually lost for words when I was watching
They're
it.
scraping barrel now, aren't they? They're scraping. This is why Bricktop's 369, is it? 369 average per fight ranking. I mean, what is that? This is DAZN, big TV money. It's supposed to be the biggest promoter in Europe, Bricktop. This is what they're serving up. And they're telling me I'm a hater. I deal in statistics. Bricktop a few years ago were like 80, 85, 120. They're 3 times worse because the fighters are not there. The cupboards are bare. Cupboards are bare.
Who who was that Bosnian cab driver that Delicious Ori was in with?
I don't
I
know. It's
mean,
just, I
like
don't
really,
know.
you could have gone down to your local pub and you could have found somebody who could have done the same job, right? And Delicious Ori is supposed to be this next big thing. And there was a time when, somebody who was a top-rated Olympian, they did not start off with somebody who was so poor. Like, again, the quality of the product that was put out this past weekend was very, very disappointing.
They're very disappointing. It's bordering on fraud. What they're doing, absolute fraud. Just like Ben Eubank, that is absolutely embarrassing. It's a load of grown men trying to put a welterweight in. Their words, not mine. I think he's a light middle. In with a super middle, but making out he's a middle. Look, fraud. What they've just seen at the weekend is fraud, and which brings me to Jarrell Miller. We've got Spencer Oliver saying he hates drug cheats. They should have a lifetime ban, and they should be run out of the sport. Then I see him on a sofa yesterday with Jarrell Miller with his arm around him. These people cannot lie straight in bed. They will go to bed with a king cobra if they got paid. Absolute weapons. Now, I'm fed up of these press conferences where they're trying to kick it off and hype it up and this and that. Look, we've got a white collar guy in Wardley. That's the statistic. That's fact. Although he can punch and he's done well. A white collar guy going in against a 23.5 stone man who's took, is it 9 or 10 substances over 4 drug issues? And every single one of them had to be injected, not took orally. And Spencer Oliver, there you go. He said he hates drug cheats and all that. He's hanging out at the back of him. But Miller always kicks it off at pressers. And Bricktop's there saying, well, I don't like all this. Listen, why are you giving Miller the chance then? If you're dead against drug cheats, why are you giving Miller the chance?
Well,
Go on, ball to you.
The hypocrisy from Frank Warren was absolutely shameful. When it kicked off, I don't know if you noticed, but Frank Warren did not react because, of course, it's all expected, right? It's all. This is now becoming highly reminiscent of the World Wrestling. What do you call it? The WWE, right?
Yeah.
This is. What did I say the other day? Is it grain-fed beef or lab-grown beef? Right? It's lab-grown.
It's crow's nest flan.
I will say this about Jarrell Miller. I do not like trash talking, but Jarrell Miller is actually good at trash talking. So if you're going to hire somebody to market a fight, yes, he's good at that. Do I think he should be in a ring? Well, no. I mean, I'm of that camp that if you're caught weaponizing your body in a combat sport where you can kill somebody and people have been killed in the ring, then you should be banned from boxing.
His manager's Spencer Brown.
Yes, I noticed that.
There you go. Good old Spencer Brown, eh?
I noticed
I
that.
love boxing and I hate drug cheats as well. Well, you're managing a drug cheat, Spencer Brown. A multiple drug cheat.
Yes. The only thing I will say, Russ, the only thing I will say is that stage was well constructed because on the side where Spencer Brown and Big Pharma Miller were sitting, there had to be at least 600 pounds of body weight on that stage. So I think that whoever did that little bit of scaffolding, earned their pay that day.
Well, Spencer Brown's problem is fish chips and peas, isn't it? That's what he eats a lot of with loads of Heinz red sauce.
I would imagine he eats anything he sees.
Yeah. Tyson knocks them out and he eats them.
Yeah.
Getting back to Wardley, though.
Yeah.
I think he dusts Miller. I think he breaks him down and knocks him out himself. I think he lets his hands go on him.
I hope so.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I do.
I like Fabio Wardley, and I don't hold against him the fact that he doesn't have an amateur background. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, that goes in the plus column. Like he's done really, really well for himself. He's exceeded expectations.
Yeah.
He comes to fight. He's a come forward fighter. He lets his hands go. As a fan, what more can I ask?
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to go on to part 3, Bob?
Yes, for sure.
Cheers, mate. I'll see you on part 3. Thanks for
You bet.
liking and subscribing, leaving a comment below. If you want to get too personal or getting close, if you look at bottom corner, it says porkycorner@mail.com. Fire your email off to me and waste 5 minutes. Come on, pop, pop, bang.